Good day to everyone. I am Mrs. Rosel Pascual Diodos, and I am a current mathematics teacher at Calanigan National High School at Santo Tomas, and I am tasked to discuss and share to you today my thoughts on teaching strategies in instructional planning. In this lecture, you will learn the following. First is to identify the different strategies in teaching. So later on, may mga iba't ibang strategies and techniques tayo later on in teaching and learning process. And each of them, isa-isahin natin mamaya. And another one is to give the purpose of the different strategies. Of course, each of the strategy or technique is designed to meet our objective in different situations or classroom situations. So, pag-aaralan natin mamaya, ihimay-himayin natin kung ano yung kagandahan, advantage, saka disadvantage ng bawat isa. And another one is to know the importance of these strategies or technique in the teaching process. Meron siyang strength and meron tong weakness yung bawat technique na ito. So, after listening, after discussing these different strategies and techniques later on, you will decide which is best suited to your classroom situation later on. And another one is, of course, the most important among all, we should be able to apply these strategies to the teaching and learning process, applicable to synchronous and asynchronous, our online or in our online situation today, pwede natin i-apply ito. Okay? And we will discuss later on the various teaching strategies, and this include the discussion. Meron tayong discussion na technique in presenting some, like for example, magkakaroon tayo ng technique na gusto natin ma-elicit yung mga ideas ng ating mga bata. So, gusto kasi natin yun yung end goal natin that day. So, meron tayong iba't ibang pamamaraan or mga strategies or techniques para makuha natin yung gusto nating makuha doon sa ating instruction. So, the first strategy, we have this, some strategies, marami pa, pero ang i-discuss lang natin in this chapter is the following. So, we have discussion technique, brainstorming technique, demonstration, familiar debate, mock trial, role-playing, and simulation. So, my part is to discuss the two strategies I've mentioned, which are the discussion and the brainstorming, and the rest will be discussed by my group mates. Okay? So, let's start with the discussion technique. Ano ba itong discussion technique? So, in my mind, this basically means na hindi lang dapat si teacher ang nagdi-discuss. Actually, alam na natin yan, di ba po? So, 21st century teaching and learning na tayo. We are discouraged to monopolize the discussion as teachers. We are discouraged to give all the inputs, di ba? We give everything, spoon feeding. We are discouraged to do that. And in the 21st century teaching and learning process, we are now considered as facilitators. Okay? Facilitators. Hindi na yung puro tayo lang yung nagdi-discuss and nag-spoon feed, na pinanggagalingan ng lahat ng input. So, the first I think it's very effective technique in eliciting ideas from our students is the discussion technique. It is basically an orderly verbal interchange. Okay? So, discussion, it refers to free communication of ideas between the teacher and students, and among the students as well. So, this discussion is applicable to if between a teacher and the students, pwede, nagsha-sharean, there's an exchange of ideas, or also applicable to among the students, sila lang. And they are discussing a certain topic, then hayaan mo lang sila na pag-usapan yung isang topic na ibinigay mo, but with your you are there to facilitate the discussion, okay? So, discussion can be done through dyads, okay? Meaning, peer discussion, pwedeng dalawa sila, or pwede rin naman small group, 5 to 10 members, okay? 5 to 10 members, small group, or pwede rin naman whole class, okay? Maganda kapag small group, di ba? Madali lang i-facilitate kapag small group. And masaya rin kapag whole class yung discussion. And you are there to facilitate the discussion. Okay? So, it is a variety of forum for open-ended, collaborative exchange of ideas between teacher, students, and student to student for the purpose of furthering students' thinking, learning, problem solving, understanding, or literary appreciation. So, participants in this strategy present multiple points of view, respond to the ideas of others, and reflect on their own ideas in an effort to build their own knowledge. So, this is a free-way exchange of ideas. Kumbaga, walang limit na, oy, one statement ka lang. Ikaw naman, student B, two statements ka lang. Walang ganon. So, there is a freedom in the exchange of ideas among students or you, teacher, and to your students. Diba? Magsasabi ka, mag-open ka ng statement, sasagot yung bata, oh, ma'am, I have another experience about that. How about, di ba, magdadagdag sila. And then the other student, makaka-relate, magdadagdag rin siya ng idea. So, this is a free exchange of ideas, which is, yun yung maganda, di ba? Walang limitations. I'm not referring na lahat pwede nilang sabihin. As long as you facilitate, you guide them in the right track, diba? Pwede nilang i-share kung ano yung nasa saloobin nila. Okay? And maganda ito, kapag meron kang may topic na gusto mong i-present and gusto mong i-elicit yung kanilang ideas about that, pwede yung discussion technique. Okay? And there are 5 logical conditions in order for an exchange to be called a discussion because not all exchange of ideas can be called a discussion, maybe according to Bridges 1990. Okay? So, may mga conditions. We have to take into considerations the following for us to consider that a certain exchange of ideas or thoughts will be called or considered a discussion. The first thing is, people must talk to one another. That means, if you have a small group, okay, the one is talking, not only one is talking, I mean, dapat lahat involved, okay? Lahat dapat nagsasalita. Lahat nagre-respond. Hindi lang iisa dapat yung nagmo-monopolize ng discussion, okay? For us to consider that it is a discussion, dapat lahat involved or nagsasalita. Another is, people or the members of the group or your students must listen to one another, of course. Magsasalita ka, walang nakikinig sa'yo. The one member of the group nagsasalita and the other one may ginagawang ibang project sa klase mo. Hindi yun masasabing discussion, okay? So, dapat if someone is talking doon sa group, within the group, the rest of the members must listen to the one talking. Okay? Kasi later on, meron tayong sinasabing people must respond to one another. How will they respond to the idea of their classmate if they are not in the first place listening? Diba? So, ito yung mga conditions para masabi natin magkakaroon ng exchange of ideas. May nagsasalita, nagli-listen sila sa bawat isa, and nagre-respond sila. Kung may nagsasalita, nakatulala lang yung other members, walang respond, do you think merong progress yung discussion? Wala. Mag-i-stop lang siya. Okay? In other words, magiging boring yung discussion. walang nag-respond back doon sa idea ng classmate nila, whether they agree or not. Pwede, di ba? Basta may mag-respond. And another one is people must be collectively shared to put forward more than one point of view. Ulitin natin, people must be collectively shared to put forward more than one point of view. So, dapat, syempre, pag nagkaroon na ng exchange of the ideas, magpro-progress yan. Lalawak yan. Yung scope, mamaya may i-present yung isang estudyante, may babato na naman yung isa. So, the scope of the conversation ay magiging wider. Okay? As long as you facilitate that yung nasa ano pa lang sila, nasa right track or related pa rin dun sa topic na i-present mo yung pag-uusapan nila. And another one is people must have the intention of developing their knowledge, understanding, or judgment of the issue under discussion. Okay? People or the members or your students must have the intention of developing their knowledge. Okay? In the initial part of the discussion, meron silang idea, di ba po? So, as they go through the discussion, marirealize nila yon later on. Makikita mo mag-improve yung kanilang idea. Madadagdagan eh. In the back of their mind, kapag narinig nila yung idea ng kasamahan nila, mai-improve yung kung ano yung nasa isip nila. And their judgment regarding that issue under discussion. Di ba po? So, dapat makita mo yon as teacher. Yung pag-develop ng kanilang knowledge from the very beginning up to the end of the discussion. Okay? So, for discussion to be successful as a strategy, okay, para maging successful yung strategy na ito, yung participants natin or yung mga students natin ay kailangan ito. Okay? Kailangan meron sila nito. Number one is the moral disposition. Ano yung moral disposition? They are willing to listen to a reason. Moral. Di ba? Parang moral support na parang related to that. Okay? Magsasalita yung classmate nila. Okay? They should listen. Unless kung ang ingay-ingay nila, wala silang respect doon sa nagsasalita, do you think there is a moral, meron nagpapakita sila ng moral respect doon sa classmate nila? No. So, you as a facilitator, we as a facilitator should look into this. Okay? Doon sa ating mga students. Under moral disposition, they should be willing to abide by rules. Okay? That facilitate exchange of ideas. If you set a rule na they listen if someone is talking, they must do that. Unless kung pag wala kang, or else pag wala kang rules, and they are not following your rules, do you think there will be a harmonious exchange of ideas? So the key to success actually is in you as facilitator, is in us as facilitator. Okay? Another is, of course, your participants, make sure that your participants or our students should have the intellectual disposition. Okay? They have that concern. Concern for clarity in the expression of ideas. Hindi sila yes lang yes, yes lang yes. Okay? Kaya maganda yung mga bata na nagsisik for clarification because they are curious. Doon mo makikita na they are listening actually. And they have that concern that appropriate variety of perspective is considered by the group. Okay? Another is your participants or students must show ethical disposition. Okay? You have to look into this as well. Appreciation for correction. Pag kino-correct mo yung bata, kasi we are facilitators, we auto-correct some ideas na hindi na related or hindi na tangent, the ideas that are off tangent. Kailangan natin yun ituwid, i-correct, diba? I-facilitate, i-process. So, we make sure that our students should be, maluwag, sa kalooban nila, nasa sa atin din na teacher kung paano natin yon, paano i-correct yung ating mga bata na in a nice manner, di ba? Okay? And they should possess appreciation in the declination of the ambiguous shared ideas. So, i-decline mo, you disapprove their ideas. Okay? Pwede tayong mag-disapprove eh. It's just a manner of how we tell them, how we correct them, or how we decline their ideas. Kasi hindi naman pwede nating i-tolerate na tama yung sinasabi nila kung hindi naman. Okay? So, trained na tayong teachers on how to decline or disapprove ideas na galing sa ating students in a very nice manner na hindi naman masasaktan yung ating mga anak. Okay? But discussion, my dear teachers, meron din siyang noted advantages and limitations. Okay? Not every strategy is really perfect. Ano? Meron siyang advantage, meron din siyang limitation. So, these are our basis later on kung kailan, saan, kanino natin gagamitin itong discussion technique sa ating klase. First is, under the advantage is, because it is an active learning process, it is more likely to maintain students' interest. Yes, very sure, di ba? Sila nag-uusap eh. O parang barkada lang. Meron silang small group discussion. Nagsishare lang sila ng ideas. Maganda yung flow ng discussion kapag ganyan. Okay? Andiyan ka lang, nagpa-facilitate para sa kanila. Question and answer na yan eh. Statement ng isa, mag-i-statement din yung isa. So, of course, it's expected there will be an active learning process. Another under advantage, okay, active involvement in learning motivates students, especially when they see that others value their contributions and respect their points of view. Okay? There will be active involvement kasi if they know that their classmates or other members of the group value their contributions and ideas and thoughts, lalong magaganahan silang maglabas ng kanilang ideas. Kasi nakikita nila yung mga classmates nila na nakikinig sa kanila. Okay? Isang advantage yon. Hindi yung puro galing lahat sa'yo as teacher. And another one is more opportunities for practice and use of language as well as expression of ideas and opinions among students. Dahil sa discussion technique, natitrain, napapractice yung communication nila. How they express themselves. Okay? Paano nila ilabas yung thoughts nila. Through, of course, talking, reciting. So, napapractice yan, yung communication skill nila. Advantage yan. Sa limitations, we have, we don't have the control over the discussion. Of course, kasi freeway ito eh. There's a freeway exchange of ideas, discussion. So, hindi natin makontrol over the discussion. Talkative students could easily dominate and influence the group to accept their ideas. Okay? Meron tayong, hindi natin maiwasan. Meron tayong mga dominanteng estudyante. Sila yung maboka. Salita, masalita. Yung confidence level nila as into the max. Okay? So, hindi natin maiiwasan na minsan good as accepted na agad-agad yung ideas nila. Good as approved by the body na. Di ba? Parang ganon. Without processing the idea nung batang yon, parang minsan automatic, oo na lang sila, yes na. Kasi yung pag-express ng sarili ng batang yon, very confident, minsan alam nila na yun na yung tama. Okay? So, yun yung isang limitation. Another is, if not guided well, there will be opportunities for students to stray from the topic and waste time. So, kung meron tayong small group discussions, maraming small group discussions in our class, 5 to 10 members, minsan pag chinecheck natin, tina-facilitate natin yung isang group, the other one iniwan natin. So, minsan, nagchichismisan na lang, di ba? Kung hindi natin, hindi guided well yung group na yon. So, iniwan natin, biglang iba na yung pinag-uusapan nila, out of topic na. Okay? Hindi na academic discussion yon. So, yan yung isang limitation. Okay? Some students may be reluctant to participate in discussions for fear or being ridiculed for their ideas or opinions. So, isang limitation po ng discussion, minsan may mga estudyante tayo, mag-aaral tayo ng quiet, okay? They are shy type, okay? Hesitant sila na i-share yung ideas nila kasi natatakot sila baka pagtawanan or i-disapprove ng body. So, i-minimize natin yon. So, we teachers as facilitators should make a way na makapag-recite lahat without any bully. Na binubully yung classmate nila dahil ganun yung idea nila. So, yun yung isa pang limitation ng discussion. Kasi, pag mag-express, kasi free nga eh, mag-express sila ng idea nila, later on, may bata na magdi-disapprove ng idea ng kasama nila, mapapahiya yung classmate nila. So, yun yung isang limitation kung bakit nalilimit yung pagsasalita ng bawat member. Okay, so, we have to strategize kung paano magiging active o maganda yung magkaroon ng harmonious and active exchange of ideas kapag nagkakandak tayo ng discussion technique. Okay? So, we have here discussion techniques na pwede nating gawin in the implementation or integration of this technique in our lesson. Number one is, first is we have to make expectations clear. On the very first part pa lang, we set our expectations na. Okay? Students must know exactly what they have to do for discussion. Ano yun, mag-group ka dyan, and hindi nila alam kung ano yung gagawin nila. So, dapat on the very first part, i-set mo na yung expectations. Okay? Ano bang gagawin nila? Do they have to read the chapter first and discuss the content of that chapter after reading, or do they need to watch a video first before the discussion? So, something like that. So, ilagay na natin dun sa instructions natin, and ilagay na natin kung ano yung mga expected from them after that. Okay? Another is set ground rules. Set ground rules. May mga limitations tayo like time. Ilang minutes lang ba ang kailangan sa ganito? Ilang minutes? Ilan yung magsasalita bawat minutes? Or do they need to interrupt the speaker while talking, or do they have the right to ask questions while discussing, or after na lang ng discussion? So something like that. Mag-set tayo ng ground rules. Okay? Another is we should arrange the physical space. Okay? Lalo na kapag may face-to-face na. We cannot do this actually in the online classroom teaching kasi of course, physical space and applicable lamang yan kapag face-to-face na. And if it happens na babalik na tayo sa face-to-face setting, so we should look into this na maganda yung pagkaka-arrange ng ating groups or yung mga members of the groups. Recommended naka-circle sitting arrangement so that everybody ay naka-face-to-face from one another. Okay? Para pag may nagsasalita, may eye contact. May eye contact. Okay? And number 4 is plan a discussion starter. So, a technique here is you may ask a participant to come up with an opening question. Okay? Or you do the opening, you give the topic and let a student recite an opening question or an opening statement kung saan magsisimula yung discussion. Study questions or handed out prior to meeting. Pwedeng naibigay mo na bago pa nung klase mo, okay? Para nang sa ganun ay makapag-prepare naman sila. Another one, technique is facilitate, do not discuss. Alam ko, very trained na tayo dito, teachers, because as in the 21st century teaching and learning, we are now facilitators. Unlike before, na yung mga teachers before, traditional teachers, they do the discussion. Discuss, all the inputs from them. So, ngayon, i-facilitate lang natin. Okay? Lahat ng ideas, let the students give the ideas hanggang sa matumbok na yung gusto nating yung expectations natin. Okay? So, i-facilitate lang natin sila. In student-student interaction, teachers must refrain from talking. Okay? Watch group progress. Yan ang tingnan natin. May progress ba yung discussion? Okay? Nagiging, kung puno sana anong tawag dito kapag puno? As in, nag-grow. Okay? Tingnan natin kung may progress. Nag-grow yung discussion natin. And kapag medyo boring na, kaya nga dyan tayo facilitators. I-facilitate natin. Sumingit tayo so that magkakaroon ng progress doon sa discussion ng ating mga anak. Keep everyone engaged in this discussion. Nakikita natin na may iisa na lang yung nagsasalita, hindi na nagpa-participate yung iba. So, it's our responsibility, it's our duty to keep everyone engaged in discussion. So, that's a clue already na papasok na tayo, sisingit na tayo, facilitate natin. Okay? And another is, encourage quiet members to participate. Okay? I-encourage natin. Kasi, hindi natin maiiwasan, may mga anak tayo dyan na quiet in nature, di ba? Mayaman sila sa ideas, pero hindi nila may express yon sa sarili nila. Okay? Hindi nila ma-express in a public place. I mean, sa harap ng kanilang classmates, hindi nila ma-express. But back in their minds, andun na yung ideas nila. So, encourage them. Okay? Start natin sila na magbigay muna ng simple statement hanggang mamaya papasagutin na naman natin sila from another statement. So, encourage lang natin sila, kausapin natin sila. Kasi, it is in discussion technique, sabi kanina doon sa advantage, na mahahasa yung kanilang communication skill. Number 7 is don't allow monopolies. Okay? Huwag nating hayaan na iisa lang yung nagsasalita sa member. Hindi na siya discussion kung iisa lang po yung nagsasalita, di ba po? Huwag nating ialaw yan. Ihingin natin yung idea ng katabi niya kung kinakailangan. Sabihin natin, nag-agree ka ba sa sinasabi niya? What can you say? Sasabihin natin ganon. I-eye contact natin, tingnan natin sa mata that we show them na we are serious, that we listen sa lahat ng kanilang sinasabi. Okay? And another is direct the discussion among group members. So, makikita natin, i-guide natin sila We are there to guide them. Huwag nating iiwan kapag mag-conduct tayo ng discussion technique, ilagay natin ito, strategy, as part of our lesson, teaching strategy. Dapat make sure andun talaga tayo the whole time while doing this technique. Okay? Of course, designation of focal person to facilitate discussion. Okay? So, in a group, pwede ka sigurong mag-assign kung sino ang focal person, something like that. So, pwede mong sabihin yung gano'n. Pwede kang mag-assign ng gano'n. And number 9, keep the discussion on track. Of course, you facilitate the group's progress from time to time. Okay? Huwag mo silang iwan hanggang sa mamaya out of track na sila. So, i-guide mo lang sila. Kaya minsan maganda rin yung yung the whole class. Kasi anggan ka, facilitate, let them, magre-revolve na lang yung idea sa klase. So, maganda rin siya. Disadvantage kasi minsan kapag small group discussions and you have sets of small group, mag-visit ka sa ibang group, mag-visit ka, and then mamaya, yung iba na yung ginagawa, ibang group. So, yun din ang isang disadvantage. Okay? And then number 10, clarify when confusion reigns. Recording may help the group. Okay? So, let them learn the act of clear self-expression. So, kapag merong mga questions within the group, pwedeng may secretary doon, isusulat ko na yung mga questions, and pwedeng sila din ang mag-solve, di ba? Kung may mga questions, it doesn't necessarily na si teacher ang mag-solve, kaya discussion pwedeng within the group din yung solution process. Okay? And number 11, tolerate some silence. Yes, I agree with this. Okay? Silence gives everyone a chance, of course, to think. Di ba? There's a time for us to, of course, we need to process, di ba? We need to process the issue. O, di ba? Mag-organize tayo ng thoughts natin. And sometimes we need silence to do that. Okay? So, minsan hayaan lang natin yung mga bata. Kaya nga, di-discourage sa principles of teaching na kapag magpa-recite ka, you call the student's name immediately, di ba? Mas maganda na present mo muna yung question and then before you call the student. Kaysa yung you call a student before you give the question. So, sometimes we need 1 to 2 minutes silence or to process the issue or concern. And number 12 is summarize when appropriate. Let the students summarize their discussion, di ba? Ano yung, syempre pwedeng i-bullet type lahat ng ideas nila, i-summarize. And this is a good practice na nagkakaroon tayo ng summary of what is being discussed. Okay? So, another technique that we can use or we can apply in our teaching is the brainstorming. This is very common. Lagi natin ina-apply ito. Whether we are aware or not, alam ko, in everyday teaching natin, we apply this brainstorming. Because I believe na hindi all-knowing ang teacher, di ba? Two-way process ang teaching and learning process. We learn from our students and our students learn from us. So, brainstorming, of course, is used when there is an issue that has to be clarified or a problem that calls for a solution. The basic design of a brainstorming session is presenting an open situation and creating an environment where students feel free to contribute their ideas without fear and failure, diba? Take note of that. We should maintain the atmosphere when we conduct this brainstorming that there's no atmosphere of fear during the brainstorming process, diba? We should establish an environment na kung saan meron silang freedom to share their ideas. Parang magkapatid dito, si discussion siya kasi brainstorming. Itong brainstorming lang kasi is parang chop idea from our students to create or maka-generate tayo ng isang single idea or concept doon sa i-present mong issue or problem. Or sabi nga, kapag may problema and you want to find a solution for that and you solicit ideas from your students, then brainstorm, di ba? Brainstorm. So, it is a technique basically to elicit large number of imaginative ideas or so to open-ended problems. So, ito yung sinasabi ko kanina. We want a number of imaginative ideas or solutions. Maganda, syempre, magkakaiba yung estudyante mo, magkakaiba yung ideas. Gusto mo ng magkakaibang ideas or solutions. Okay? You apply brainstorming technique. It is also used when there is an issue that has to be clarified or a problem that calls for a solution. It is an effective technique for generating list of ideas. Ayan, if you want to obtain list of ideas, solutions, then you may use the brainstorming technique and creating interest and enthusiasm for new concepts or topics. Ano to if you allow the students, if you require the students to think of a solution, busy yung mind nila. Okay? Ma-activate yung kanilang their thinking skills, okay? Kasi you are actually you are asking for a solution for a certain problem. Okay? So hindi possible di sila aantukin yan or what? Kasi nag-iisip sila ng solution. Okay? Nag-iisip sila ng idea. And you want that that ideas, you want those ideas to combine, and later on you present them. Okay? So that's a good thing for brainstorming technique. Another one is to provide teachers and students with an overview of what the students know and or think about the specific topic. Sometimes, before I start the lesson, pwede mo rin gamitin yan, di ba? Climate change, maglagay ka, climate change. What they know about climate change? Mag-brainstorm ka, brainstorm. And then, alam mo na, later on, parang diagnose test eh. Alam mo na kung ano yung alam na nila. At alam mo na kung ano yung level ng alam na nila sa specific topic na yon. Alam mo na kung, ay, ito lang pala yung alam nila. Ay, ito pala yung alam na nila kasi ni-recite na nila yun. So, it's a form of a pretest. Ano? Alam mo kung saan ka papasok. Alam mo kung ano na yung level ng alam nila regarding a specific topic. So, in conducting a brainstorming technique, we have these ground rules. Okay? Recommended, suggested ground rules. We have to establish brainstorming ground rules such as defer judgment. Okay? I-postpone natin yung judgment natin sa ating mga bata. Or judgment ng kapwa nila. Kasi in the first part, possibly tahimik pa lang yung bata, wala pa masyadong naiisip, di ba? Wala pa masyadong naiisip yan. Sabihin mo, nag-judge ka na agad. Ginudge mo na agad yung bata mo. Or ginudge na nila agad yung classmates nila. Postpone natin. Hayaan natin, sige pa, i-develop pa nila yung idea nila, yung insights nila. Okay, postpone natin. Kasi, you may never know where a good idea is going to come from. Di ba? Malay mo, at the end of the, malapit na patapos yung brainstorming part, biglang boom, ang ganda na ng sinasabi ng batang yon. Substantial na siya, okay? Malalim na. So, i-postpone, i-defer lang natin yung judgment. Hayaan lang muna natin yung flow, okay, ng brainstorming process. The key is making everyone feel like they can say the idea in their mind and allow others to build on it. Making everyone feel na sabihin lang nila kung ano yung nasa sarili nila. And based doon sa sinabi nung estudyante, yung isa naman, makakapag-develop na siya ng sarili niyang idea based sa narinig niya sa classmate niya. Okay? Huwag nating i-judge agad-agad. Another is encourage wild ideas. Oh, very bold yung word ng wild. Encourage wild ideas can often give rise to creative leaps. Okay? Wag mong i-close. Okay? Wag mong i-close in a certain anong tawag dito? Standard ba? Yung mga ideas o kailangan ano lang yung mga ideas natin ha. Kailangan na ganito lang, smooth, o gaganyan mo. Hindi malilimit yung pag-iisip nila kapag ganon. O kaya hayaan mo lang, yung mga creative ideas nila, hayaan mo lang ilabas yan. In thinking about ideas that are wacky or out there, we tend to think about what we really want without the constraints of technology or materials. Okay? Build on the ideas of others. O brainstorming ground rules. Sa mga bata ito, build on the ideas of others. So being positive and building on ideas of others takes some skill. Of course, in conversation, we try to use and instead of but, di ba? O and. O, di ba? May nagsalita, may nag-recite na kapwa nila, and sasabihin nila may dadagdag sila, that's building ideas from the idea of others. Tapos, instead of doing that, classmate, you may do this. O, sabihin ng classmate niya. So, that's building on the ideas of others. But, mag-but yung classmate. But, you cannot do that. But, di ba? So, makikita mo, there's building of another ideas from an initial idea of a classmate. Okay? Stay focused on the topic. Your participants must stay focused on the topic. Wag nang lalayo, 'di ba? Wag nang lalayo. You have to maintain that. Try to keep the discussion on target. Okay? Otherwise, you can diverge beyond the scope of what you are trying to design for, 'di ba? Mamaya, yung objective mo napapalayo ka na, hindi mo natuloy siya. One conversation at a time. A group is more likely to build on an idea and make a creative leap if everyone is paying full attention to whoever is sharing new idea. Okay? So, i-facilitate mo yan. Make sure that one conversation at a time. Kasi mamaya, may nag-open up ng another conversation, lahat na ng attention nasa kanya na. Nawala na, nakalimutan na yung nauna. Be visual, okay? Be visual. What does this mean? In live brainstorms, we write down post-its and then put them on the wall. Well, nothing can get an idea across faster than drawing it. Doesn't matter if you are not Rembrandt. Okay? So, be visual. Kung kailangan i-post nila yung mga ideas nila, okay? Gagawa sila ng mga diagrams para lang ma-visualize nila, mas maintindihan nila kung ano yung kine-create nilang ideas. So, pwede nating i-achieve that or ipagawa yan. Okay? Be visual. Hindi lang yung puro. Pwede mo, kung ano yung sinasabi nila, ipakita mo, i-drawing mo, kasi mas naiintindihan nila kung ipinapakita natin, i-drawing natin. Di ba? And go for quantity, not for quality. But, still you facilitate. Okay? Still you facilitate the quality of what they are saying. But go for quantity. Make sure that you encourage all of them to participate. The more ideas, the better. Okay? Aim for as many ideas as possible. Of course, in a good session, up to 100 ideas, maybe 100 ideas in 1 hour, di ba? Di ba? Crack ideas out quickly and build on the best ones. So, sige, kuha ka lang ng ideas. And later on, isa-summarize nyo yan. Facilitate mo naman siya. So, that's the ground rules in brainstorming. And we have to take note all of these. Brainstorming. So, there is a purpose. There are purpose of brainstorming. Okay, so these are the purposes of brainstorming. Number 1 is to focus student attention on a particular topic. Okay, it's if you want the student to pay attention on a particular topic, then you may use the brainstorming technique to generate particular ideas. If you want to gather student ideas based from the specific topic that you've given them, so you may use brainstorming as well. Okay, and to teach acceptance and respect for individual differences, of course, all of the students, each of the member of the group will share their own insights or ideas. Ideas about the topic that you've given them. So, of course, you are teaching also to accept and respect the ideas of one another kasi they are listening, and listening is one way to respect other people's talking. Okay? To encourage the learner to take a risk in sharing their ideas and opinions, of course, you are allowing them, you are giving them opportunity to bring out what's in their mind, to express their ideas, to demonstrate to the student that their knowledge and abilities are valued and accepted, to provide an opportunity for students to share ideas and expand knowledge by building on each other's. Of course, if may naririnig silang ideas, na yumayaman yung kanilang yung kanilang idea eh. Kapag nakakarinig ka, learning by listening. Kapag nakakarinig ka ng idea ng iba, nai-improve yung sayo, di ba? Yung idea mo. So that's one advantage or purpose of brainstorming. Characteristics of brainstorming. We have number 1, it is an intellectual activity. Of course, you think students process the issue. So it's an intellectual activity, okay? They think, they process, they express their ideas. Once makarinig sila ng ibang idea, they process again. So it's an intellectual activity. Maximum or all students can participate. That's a good thing kasi na-involve lahat. Pwedeng involve lahat. Okay? Walang naiiwan. Unlike sa ibang activities na you can choose lang sa mga like reporting. Like for example, reporting. You can just choose one student to report the lesson, di ba? But in the discussion or in the brainstorming, everybody is involved. Each student gives their personal view or ideas. Lahat magbibigay ng ideas. Lahat ay encouraged to share their ideas and opinions. Okay? Each idea is neither right nor wrong. O ito yung sinasabi ko. Walang mali, walang tama. But if you think if their idea is out of tangent na, facilitate natin yon. We guide. I-guide lang natin. Okay? I-guide lang natin. And I believe all teachers are trained for that. In guiding, in correcting, mga ambiguous response from our students. It involves divergent thinking. Why divergent? From one topic, boom, mag-spread out. Diba? From one specific topic, mag-spread out because of so much inputs from your students. So these are the advantages of conducting a brainstorming technique. So first is it is stimulated and provides varied instructional approach. It's highly motivating, increased task focus. Okay? Highly motivating. Why? Because everybody's involved. Okay? And you are motivated to answer what the other members are telling. Di ba? Lalo na pag naku-curious yung bata, for sure, sasagot yan or magre-respond. Okay? Increase task focus. Yes, of course, it can increase task focus because if you give them a topic and you are so eliciting their ideas, of course, mag-iisip yan. It's an intellectual activity and they have to think what they're going to say. Okay? Magpo-focus sila niyan kung anong sasabihin nila. Promotes spontaneity and creativity, of course. The way they express themselves is a form of creativity. Okay? Efficient procedure. Yes, for me, I can say that it is an efficient technique because of course, hindi ko na kailangan ng technology to do that. Hindi ko na kailangan ng paper and so much instructional materials to do that. I just post a certain topic, specific topic, and then boom, kailangan nandyan na yung mga ideas nila. It's an efficient technique actually. It involves participants in ownership of ideas. They have that pride. Okay? Meron silang pride. Wow, yung idea na yan, very good, excellent, and meron silang yung self-esteem nila, anong tawag dito? Yung self-esteem nila ay magbo-boost yung self-esteem nila if you appreciate yung ideas nila and may sense of ownership yun. Ay, sa akin yung idea na yun. So, yun, ang maganda sa brainstorming and also the discussion technique. Encourage creativity, of course, kagaya nung nauna kanina, pag-iisip pa lang nila how they will express themselves, it involves creativity as well. So that ends my topic regarding the discussion and brainstorming technique. So I hope that you have learned and I've given justice to the explanation and discussion of the two strategies in teaching. And if you have questions, you may just reach me and ask me or refer to our group chats so that we can discuss it better. Thank you and good day.
Hello everyone, my name is Charibel S. Butakan, and the assigned topic that was given to me is to discuss the demonstration method in the instructional methods and strategies. In demonstration method, the teacher or an assigned student or group shows how a process is done while the student become observers. And we have here a sample chart that illustrate what is demonstration. And we have here the verbal explanation plus live display or the use of apparatus is what we call demonstration. In verbal explanation, of course, we need to discuss first a certain topic on how to do a performance task to our learners. And in live display or the use of apparatus, as teachers, we need to demonstrate first. We need to do first the demonstration before we give to our learners. So that is demonstration. And the aims of demonstration method, first is to teach a skill, concept, or principle. Or our objective is to develop the skills of our learners and to give them the self-confidence. And second is to demonstrate delicate work involving careful manipulations. Of course, we need to discuss the safety procedures on how to do a certain task. And last one is to achieve psychomotor and cognitive objectives. And the demonstration teaching is anchored on the following principles. First, we have the learning by doing. And as I remember, learning by doing is a theory of the great philosopher John Dewey, and he explained that learning by doing is a hands-on approach, meaning students must interact with their environment in order to adapt and learn. Okay, and we need this in our classroom discussion that to learn for us to para matuto yung ating mga learners, kinakailangan na bigyan natin sila ng time or pagkakataon na matuto sa pamamagitan ng kanilang mga experiences or sa kanilang mga sa kanilang pag-perform sa kanilang mga performance tasks. And next one is the skills can be developed by imitation. And these principles explain that, for example, is yung sa mga bata, okay, kung ano yung kanilang mga nakikita, kung ano yung kanilang mga, kung ano yung ating pinapakita sa kanila ay ginagaya nila, ini-imitate nila. And the perceptions helps in imitation. Kasi kung ano yung kanilang nakikita, yung mga bagay na kanilang mga nakikita, ay siya rin na kanilang, doon sila na bumubuo ng isang kaisipan sa mga bagay-bagay. Okay? So, in demonstration method, the teacher is called the demonstrator and must possess the technical know-how. So, as teachers, we need to demonstrate first a certain task para matutunan ng mga bata kung paano gawin yung performance na ating papagawa. And second one is, he is concerned that the learner understand the logical step-by-step procedures in doing the job, the principles that apply, and the related information. Okay, of course, kinakailangan na mabusisi po tayo sa pag-explain, kailangan na malinaw, kinakailangan na ituro natin sa kanila yung tamang procedures or step-by-step process para hindi po sila mahirapan kapag sila naman na ang gumawa. Okay, next one is, the presenter shows how a process is done while the students become observers. And the best way to teach how is to show how. Okay, gaya ng sinabi ko kanina, we need to show first before our learners do the task. And planning the logical step-by-step points or activities is the key to a successful demonstration. Okay, so first we need to set up objective for teaching abilities learners should develop. Wherein, ano ba yung objective, di ba? Kahit nga, pag nagdi-discuss tayo, always na sinasabi natin kung ano yung objective ng lesson na yon, kung ano yung kanilang matututunan, at kung ano yung kanilang mga dapat gawin. Okay? And the proper tools, equipment, and materials. Papasok na dito yung sinasabi ko kaninang safety procedures. Okay, kasi like for example, a demonstration class or sa isang subject po natin, computer subject. Okay, so we have here, makailangan natin ng mga tools, ng equipment and materials na gagamitin to troubleshoot, for example, a computer. Okay? And paano ba yung tamang gamit ng mga yon? Paano ba, before nila gawin yon, ano ba yung kailangan nilang i-apply na safety procedures? And next one is to prepare the learner, na kailangan na i-prepare muna natin sila bago nila gawin yung mga bagay na yan. Kasi mamaya, yung paggawa nila ng kanilang task ay hindi pa pala sila handa, mayroon pa silang gustong i-clarify. So, we need to know kung ano pa yung mga pangangailangan ng mga bata before na pagawin natin sila ng mga task na yan, or before they do the task. Next one is to teach them the job. Okay, how to do the task and try them out and follow them up. And as teacher, we are assigned to be their facilitator. Okay, kinakailangan na tuwing may pinapagawa tayong mga performance sa kanila, we need to monitor them, their progress, or kung ano pa yung mga dapat nilang i-develop. Okay, next one is an effective demonstration. Follow the 3 steps. First is the stimulus step or the introduction. Second is the assimilative step or the development. And the third one is the application step, the integration, rehearsal, and evaluation. Papasok na dito yung yung learners na mismo yung gumagawa nung performance task or nung task given to them. Like for example, gaya na sinabi ko kanina, sa computer subject, sa pag-troubleshoot ng isang computer, kailangan na kapag sila na ang gagawa noon at natutunan na nila, na-practice na nila, of course, papasok na dyan si evaluation, kung ano na yung progress ng bata. Okay. Process outline for giving a demonstration. Ano ba yung mga processes na yan? Okay, first is orient the learners to the demonstration. Okay? Second is show the learners, if possible, what the demonstration is to produce or achieve. And the third one, show and describe the equipment and materials to be used. And emphasize their safety, as mentioned a while ago. And 5 is give the demonstration and summarize as needed. Okay, yan po yung process outline for giving a demonstration. And of course, in demonstration, we have the advantages and disadvantages. In advantages, involves various senses that make learning permanent. Of course, gaya nga ng principle ni John Dewey, learning by doing. Kapag ito ay kanilang ginagawa, mas nare-retain sa kanila kung paano siya gawin at kung paano yung proper procedures in doing a certain task. Second is teacher invites cooperation of pupils. Makikita naman natin, alam ko na lahat tayo as we observes during the discussions or lalo na nung may face-to-face pa, kapag may pinapagawa tayo sa mga bata, mas nabuboost yung kanilang cooperations towards the topic. Mas nabuboost pa yung kanilang self-confidence at na tutulungan sila na maging magkaroon ng ideya sa or matutunan yung topic na ating dinidiscuss o yung gusto nating objectives or ano ba yung mga dapat nila matutunan. Next is to develop interest and motivation for active participation and helps achieve psychomotor objectives and increases leadership and self-confidence among demonstrators. Hindi na lang kasi more on discussion tayo. Okay, of course, kinakailangan lalo na ang mga bata ngayon kapag more on discussion, nawawala yung kanilang interest into a certain topic. Okay, so paano sila matututo? So dapat bigyan natin sila ng kung ano yung alamin natin kung ano yung kanilang pangangailangan. In the demonstration itself is malaking tulong para sa kanila. Okay, yung mga activity na mga binibigay natin sa mga bata. And the disadvantages can only be used in skill subject. Hindi kasi niya lahat sakop ang demonstration. Sa demonstration method kasi, papasok dyan, of course, yung TLE, yung pwede dyan, TLE, marami na dyan, yung cooking, sa agri, yung pagtatanim, and also yung sa computer subject, ayan. So, hindi lahat, okay? So, the second one is only the attention of the learners is invited towards the activity demonstrated. Kumbaga, minsan yung mga bata, mas natufocus na lang dun sa demonstration. Tapos yung attention nila dun sa, kumbaga sa discussion, kumbaga, minsan, hindi na nila inaalam kung ano yung pinaka-konsepto mismo ng kanilang ginagawa. Okay, so kailangan balance pa rin. And next is, due to poor economic condition of the government schools, there is scarcity of audiovisual aids and equipment. O, gaya na lang sa amin sa school namin, sa Dalena High School, we are in a far-flung area. Kaya alam naman po natin, kahit nga sa internet connection, medyo hirap po kami doon and even signal connection. Wala kaming signal pag andun na kami. Maghahanap pa kami ng signal para lang makasagap kami. So, sa resources kasi, hindi pare-pareho. Okay? Yung ating availability of the resources. Okay? At kahit sa mga even sa science subjects, okay, meron syempre hindi naman lahat ay kompleto ng laboratory. Okay, so kulang, may mga kulang. Yan. So paano nga ba natin siya 'di ba mas magandang mai-discuss ang isang lesson kapag kompleto ang gamit. Pero bilang isang teacher, ginagawan pa rin natin siya ng paraan. Okay. Next, the additional tips in demonstration method. An effective demonstration should be given in a minimum of time no longer than about 15. Okay, of 15 minutes, mga ganyan. Okay, syempre, we are only given 1 hour to discuss in our, lalo na sa mga junior high, di ba? Mostly 1 oras lang yan. So, hatiin natin yung para sa discussion, hatiin natin para sa demonstration, okay, para hindi lang mag-focus yung ating discussion sa demonstration only. Okay? And the presenter should be aware of the activities of each member of the workshop or the class. Okay? Kinakailangan na, of course, syempre, dapat yun nga papasok na rin dyan yung safety procedures, maging aware din sa kanilang mga members or mga activities na ginagawa. Ayan. So, hindi lang dapat sila. Kasi dapat lahat na kailangan na matuto. Okay? And next one is as the learners work individually, the presenter should move quickly from one learner to another. Okay? So, tayong mga guro, hindi lang dapat tayo nakafocus sa isang bata. Lalo na kung marami yung mga estudyante natin na kailangan natin, sabi nga, we are their facilitator. We are facilitator of our learners. Okay? Next is, if a number of learners are having difficulty in learning a skill, the demonstration should be repeated. Oo, kinakailangan na ganun. Kasi, kung ikaw na teacher na gusto mo, minsanan mo lang sabihin sa mga bata, no. lalo na kung demonstration yan, kinakailangan na ulitin mo siya kung hindi naman naintindihan ng ating mga learners. Okay, how they can do the process, the step-by-step processes kung hindi ma-achieve ng learners mo. And the last one is the learners who have mastered a skill may assist the presenter with those who have not. Okay? Yes, maganda yung gano'n, yung peer-to-peer demonstration or peer-to-peer discussion na tulungan sila. Kung sino yung nakakalam, tulungan nila yung kanilang kaklase. Okay? So, that's all. Thank you for listening. So, we have next presenter. Later on po, makikita din natin sa next video. Thank you and God bless. Stay safe, everyone.
Hi and welcome. Good morning to our beloved Professor Dr. Elizabeth Alonzo and to you classmates. I am Reynaldo Martinez. We learned earlier in this chapter the teaching strategies and instructional planning that will lead us to the different teaching strategies that we may use as an educator. Some of the teachers include gamification in our instruction planning. Some of the more prominent strategies listed here. 1. Discussion. 2. Brainstorming. 3. Demonstration. 4. Familiar debate. 5. Mock trial. 6. Role-playing. 7. Simulation. 8. Lecture. What do you see on the screen? Are they fighting? Are they arguing each other's? Maybe you are correct. In the prominent strategies for the continuation of our lesson, I'm the one to report and will discuss to you particularly the familiar debate. Are you ready? In this lesson we are going to 1. Define familiar debate. 2. Identify the responsibilities of each member to perform. 3. Appreciate the conduct of class debate. This is the outline of our lesson. Types or forms of debate. Team policy debate. Cross-examination debate. Lincoln-Douglas debate. Spontaneous argumentation. Parliamentary debate. Public forum debate. Impromptu debating. Just debating. Mace debating. Model United Nations. Moot court. Offend parliamentarist debat, OPD. Oxford-style debating. Other forms of debate. Online debating. There are many platforms that improve our communication, especially now that there is a pandemic, and one of them is the online debate using Zoom or Google Meet, that I always watch in because it is fun to listen at. Most of them are the various religions that defend and overthrow their different respective faiths. Debate shows. Do you still remember the famous debate shows with Per and Mer in the 90s? And you will definitely learn most of it. But our lesson is familiar debate. Familiar debate is a strategy in which two sides of an issue are presented and argued by two or more individuals within a given time period. This is formal approach in which oral presentations are made by members of two opposing teams on topics are pre-assigned and researched, and the speeches are followed by rebuttals from each other. It is likely friendly debate or in basic format of public forum debate. In class debate, instead of having two contending parties, it involves 7 members in a group assigned to debate on a topic. We now go on to the responsibilities of each member to perform. Pro. Position is the defender's attempt to marshal evidence in support of the proposition being debated. Con. Position seek to find evidence and develop a line of logic that opposes the proposition being debated. Skeptical critic seeks to find information that will be useful in attaching both arguments of the pro and the con sides. And now, let us listen carefully on how to conduct a class debate. Number 1. Introduce the topic. All debates start with a topic, or resolution. Often, this resolution is a proposed course of action that one team will argue for and another will argue against. Choose a topic to which your students can relate and perhaps one with practical application. You can make the topic less serious. For example, the cafeteria should include more international dishes on the daily menu. Or more serious, the US government should reform its visa application process. In any case, be sure that your students understand the issue and any specialized vocabulary that goes with it. Number 2. Assign the affirmative and the negative. There are two sides to any debate. Naturally, one will argue for and another against the resolution. With the students, it is best to group your students into teams to research and argue the issue rather than expecting one student to do all the work. This way one student does not have all the pressure to perform and the other members of the group can help with comprehension and strategy. Ideally, break your class into 4 groups. You will want at least 3 students in each group, and assign 2 groups to each of 2 resolutions. Then assign one of each pair of student groups to the affirmative. This group will argue for the issues being presented. The other 2 groups will be the negative and will argue against the resolutions. During the debate, the other groups will serve as the judges and decide which side presented a stronger case, voting for the winners of the debate at its conclusion. Number 3. Give time for research. Your students will need time to research the issue. Not only that, they will also need additional instruction on the specific vocabulary that may be involved. Make sure all of your students understand any specialized vocabulary so the efficacy of their arguments does not depend on simple comprehension. Encourage each group to form a strategy as to who will do most of the talking during the debate, though remind them that all of them are expected to participate in the research and strategy of the debate. Then, during the preparation time in anticipation of the rebuttal, your students should discuss with their teams the points the opposition made and decide how to refute them. Number 4. Keep track of time. If you are unfamiliar with formal debate, the speakers follow a set order. The following is the most basic of debate structure. The affirmative group receives 2 minutes to present their case to the audience. The negative group then receives 2 minutes to present their case. After both sides have a chance to speak, both teams receive 2 minutes to prepare a rebuttal and summary. The order of speech is reversed now and the negative side presents their rebuttal and summary for the first 2 minutes. The last to speak is the affirmative team, who then presents their rebuttal and summary for 2 minutes. The debate is now concluded. There are other structures that you can follow for debate, and they may be useful once your class is familiar with the process and strategy of debate, but if this is the first time your students are formally debating, keeping things simple is best. Number 5. Make a judgment. Usually in debate, the winner is the one who has presented the strongest case. For classes, the overall purpose of speaking is more important than the specific outcome of the debate. Still, your students will probably want to know who won. To determine the winner, have the audience vote on which team they thought made the most convincing argument. With this, weigh your own opinion as to who communicated clearly and refuted the opponent's arguments best. This combination will identify your winners. Your grading process, on the other hand, does not have to name a winner and a loser. As long as your students were able to communicate clearly, use good grammar, and have good pronunciation, the debate was a success, and their grades should reflect that success. So did you understand?
I give you a grade of 3. In UP, as you know, that means 3 warning. I pass you, but I warn you.
Thank you.
To summarize, familiar debate is a strategy in which 2 sides of an issue are presented and argued by 2 or more individuals within a given time period. This is formal approach. Pro position is the defender's attempt to marshal evidence in support of the proposition being debated. Con position seek to find evidence and develop a line of logic that opposes the proposition being debated. Skeptical critic seeks to find information that will be useful in attaching both arguments of the pro and the con sides. There are 5 things on how to conduct class familiar debate. Number 1. Introduce the topic. Number 2. Assign the affirmative and the negative. Number 3. Give time for research. Number 4. Keep track of time. Number 5. Make a judgment. In conclusion, it is good and fun to have familiar debate on the class. It helps student to be resourceful, to reason out based on truth or evidence, and for them to be a good speaker and to be a good communicator. Thank you so much for listening. As Madam Lilybeth Garcia, Directress of Mary Sunshine Montessori School, said to her 1143 DZMR program, Madam Isang Bue. It is really good and wonderful morning.
Ang hardin ng daigdig, ang lawak, ang lawig, ang ganda, ang ganda, ang ganda. May puti, may pula, may lunti, may ginto, ang ganda, ganda ng kalikasan, yamang uri, umaapaw, dapat na.
Good day to everyone and good day to Dr. Alonzo, ma'am. Today, our group will be discussing teaching strategies in instructional planning, and the topic that assigned to me is all about mock trial. But before I go deeper on my topic, let's first define what is mock trial. Mock trial is a competition in which students simulate a real trial. So, mock trial is an act or imitation trial. So, kapag sinabi nating mock, it is not authentic or not real. Mock trial is similar to moot court. When we say moot court, it is a co-curricular activity at many law schools. So, mock trial, usually ginagamit ito ng mga law schools. The phrase moot court may be shortened to simply moot or mooting. Mooting is essentially a mock trial where two sides argue a point of law in front of an acting judge. Sa mock trial, the case is entirely fictional lang. Mock trial, this strategy helps students develop concept of justice, learn key aspects of curriculum procedure, analyze issues, interpret facts, and evaluate decisions. So, mock trials provide students with the knowledge of judicial system, legal process, and courtroom procedures. It also provides students with a forum to exercise and demonstrate their skills and knowledge of evidence, trial techniques, and strategy. In the conduct of mock trial, students need to know the role of judges, attorneys, witnesses, as well as the classroom procedure and tools of conduct. Sa role of judges, they are the one who will interpret the law, assess the evidence presented, and control how hearings and trials unfold in their courtrooms. Sa attorneys naman, they are the one who will provide legal advice in matters of rights, liberties, or property of the client within the framework of legislative and legal rights. They are also the one who will defend the client. Sa witnesses, they help to clarify what happened when telling the judge or jury everything they saw or witnessed. Next, there are three phases in conducting mock trials. First is the briefing. Briefing, pre-planning, in which the teacher's task is the identification of the case drawn from the unit of study. Dito na nangyayari yung meeting, giving information or instructions. In short, ito na yung tinatawag na preparations. Second is we have the conducting the trial. Simulation of the conduct of the trial. It is the act or the process of simulating the trial. And the third one is the briefing. Sa debriefing, asking questions like what was the case about, who were the participants in the mock trial, how were the, how were the roles played, what was the issue, what facts were relevant. Okay, there are 5 ways mock trials we can use in order to enrich and enhance our literacy skills. First is embedded vocabulary. What is embedded vocabulary? This is a trial format will allow you to teach academic language in a real-world context and have students immediately apply new words. Next is code switching, also known as language alternation. Code switching, for students learning to code switch between informal social discourse and academic discourse, the mock trial setting provides gravitas and the reason to practice the latter. Code switching occurs when a speaker alternates between 2 or more languages or language varieties in the context of single conversation or situation. In short, code switching is shifting from one linguistic code to another depende sa social context or conversational settings. Code switching is mostly used within bilingual and multilingual communities. And there are many reasons to use this method, such as the need to fit in the group, as a force of habit, or to convey thoughts and concepts that might be easier to explain in a specific language. For example, you can use or you can mix academic speak with street speak or slip mid-sentence into baby talk. The third one is oral argumentation. A lot of thinking goes into creating compelling argument that is supported by evidence. Oral argumentation, this is your chance to further explain to the court the arguments that you made you in brief. You can clarify the points you made you in brief. Tell the court what you think is the most important about your arguments and answer the questions from the court. Students spend weeks scouring case law and witness statements to come out with the storyline and an arc of reasoning. Next is close reading of text. Students have thick packets of materials to review and analyze. Close reading emphasizes the single and a particular over the general, affected by close attention to individual words. The syntax, the order in which the sentences unfold the ideas, as well as the formal structures. Sa close reading of text, mas nagiging careful tayo at nagiging sustain yung interpretation ng text. And the last one is crafting great questions. In crafting great questions, gumawa tayo ng mga questions na relevant sa topic and gumamit tayo ng clear and easy language para higit na maintindihan ang questions. Okay, these are the 5 ways mock trial can grow our literacy skills. And that is the end of my presentation Hope you understand my topic and I hope you learn from it. Thank you for listening. Good day once again.
Good morning po. I am Mrs. Rose Ann Enriquez and I am tasked to discuss to you the one of the teaching strategies in instructional planning. So when we say instructional strategies, these are techniques teachers use to help students become independent and strategic learners. These strategies become learning strategies when students independently select the appropriate ones and use them effectively to accomplish tasks or meet their goals. So since our students are diverse, individually different, meron silang individual differences na tinatawag, we teachers tend to uh, need to address the needs na kailangan po nila. We need to adjust and give them different teaching strategies in giving the activity. Dapat suited po dun sa skills na meron po sila. Para po maturuan po nating maging strategic learners and independent learners yung ating mga bata. Some of our students didn't know how to sing. Bakit mo pakakantahin yung buong klase mo kung hindi naman siya marunong kumanta? Bakit mo pag-drawingin or gagawin ng poster, slogan kung hindi naman sila marunong sa ganun. So since they are diverse, they have individual differences, we need to use teaching strategies na suit po doon sa kakayahan nila. Kasi pag you give them teaching strategies na hindi po suit doon sa kakayahan nila, kawawa naman po yung bata. Ang labas po nun, mababa po talaga yung nagiging output or pangit po yung nagiging output ng bata. As role playing. So when we say role playing, it is any speaking activity when you either put yourself into somebody else's shoes or when you stay in your own shoes but you put yourself into an imaginary situations. Wherein in role playing, dito lumalabas po yung pagiging imaginative, creative ng ating mga estudyante. There are different skills ang na-enhance po dito sa role-playing. Why is it called creative? Siyempre po, when we say creative in role-playing, nagiging creative po sila in the sense na they will be creating or nakre-create po nila yung sitwasyon na ibinibigay, yung pagkasunod-sunod kung ano yung gagawin nila doon sa kanilang role play, imaginative. Nagiging imaginative sila kasi they need to imagine yung sitwasyon. Ano ba yung magiging response ng ating mga learners doon sa sitwasyon na ibinigay ni teacher. And bakit naihihinang yung skills nila. So, dito, yung mga magagaling po na bata natin sa pag-arte, lumalabas and nagkakaroon din po dito ng yung memorization skills po na tinatawag kasi they need to memorize the script, most especially kapag yung ibibigay ni teacher na situation ay enough time to prepare and enough time to practice. So, ang nangyayari, they will memorize the script para mas maganda yung batuhan po nila or yung magiging kalalabasan ng kanilang role playing. Okay, it is also a technique that allows students to explore realistic situation by interacting with other people in a managed way in order to develop experience and try different strategies in a supportive environment. So in here, our students are given uh, the chance to explore the realistic situations. Nagiging real life scenario na minsan yung nagaganap sa ating role playing. Kasi minsan, yung mga sitwasyon po na ibinibigay ng ating ni teachers ay naranasan na din po nila. So they can easily relate in that situation. This strategy is also used to resolve problems or dilemmas and creating empathy and understanding for another person's view or behavior. Yes, kaya naman tayo minsan we teachers tend to use these teaching strategies kasi we need to see how they solve a particular situations. And in this part of teaching strategies, nagiging uh, nare-realize or na-learn din minsan ni learners na bakit ganito yung isang tao, bakit ganito yung opinion niya, bakit ganito yung characteristics niya, kasi naranasan na din niya yung kahit sa role playing lang, naranasan na niya yung sitwasyon ng ibang tao doon sa ina-act niyang role as part of that group. So kung halimbawa po si teacher nagbigay po ng senaryo na yung bata galit na galit sa nanay at yung sa real life situation mo ay hindi naman ganon pero sa'yo nabigay yung role, ngayon naiintindihan mo na kung bakit ganon yung characteristics ng isang tao, yung characteristics ng classmate niya, yung classmate mo, o kaya bakit or sabihin natin, ang sitwasyon na ibibigay po ni teacher is yung senaryo minsan sa pagtuturo. Bakit kaya minsan nagagalit si teacher? Kung ako yung teacher, kung si learners ang naging teacher, maiintindihan na niya kung bakit minsan there are some teachers na masungit, that there are some learners na bully kasi naranasan na niya kahit doon sa senaryo lang, kahit doon sa senaryo lang po na yon yung sitwasyon na yon. So, understanding for another person's view or behavior. And it also involves the process students to identify with others in a variety of situations, develop empathy. So, yun nga po, putting yourselves into other shoes, concerns for others and other personal behavior by having students enact an accidents or a different situation. So, what are the characteristics of instructional of this role playing? Yes, it is an experience-based learning methodology. It depicts real-life samples of learning situations that ensures authentic responses. Yes, because that particular situation na ibinigay mo sa ating mga learners ay naranasan na niya learner, so nagiging authentic yung response. Mas nagkakaroon siya ng idea kung paano niya isosolve yung sitwasyon na ibinigay mo sa kanya. And syempre, in a role playing, hindi puro major role play lang. We have also the minor role plays. Meron ding observer, meron ding analyst. All participants gain valuable insights, perception, attitudes, values, and problem solving skills that can be enhanced in every learning encounter. Yes, nakaka-gain sila or nag-learn na po sila ng different valuable insight. Nagkakaroon sila ng skills in problem solving because of role playing and internalization of work attitudes and positive values. So, after, ang goal po kasi ng role playing is to realize, ma-internalize po ng bawat learners yung positive attitude and positive values after acting out po yung mga sitwasyon na ibinibigay po natin doon sa ating mga learners. How it works. So, paano po ba na ginagawa yung role playing? Participants are given particular roles to play in a conversation. Yes. And then they may be given specific instruction on how to act or what to say as an aggressive client or patient in denial, or for example, or required to act and react in their own way depending on the requirements of the exercise. So they will be given specific instruction also. So, pwede po siguro dito sa specific instruction ay magbigay ka ng specific scenario on kung ano po yung i-act out nila, and then kung paano po nila isosolve yung scenario na yon. The participants will then act out the scenario, and afterwards, there will be reflections and discussions about the interactions. And syempre, pagkatapos po ng pag-role play, pag-act out po ng ating mga learners, you need to give them reflections. Ano ba yung naramdaman nila, natutunan nila, why they are portraying the roles after acting out yung sitwasyon na yon, and then have a simple forum discussions. Usually po yung role-playing na ito ay ginagawa sa GMRC, kung meron pa po tayo. ESP na po pala ngayon. And sa senior high school naman, we don't have ESP, but we have personal development. So minsan po doon nagkakaroon or binibigyan ko po ng role playing yung mga bata, mas especially po doon sa task ng doon po yung part po ng module which is yung developmental task ng as senior high school student. And then the scenario can then be acted out again. So after several reflections and discussion, pwedeng ipaulit mo ulit yung role-playing na ginawa or ipapa-act out mo na parang summary na po lahat ng mga summary na po nung reflections and discussions na ginawa nung sa klase para makita kung ano yung mas maganda doon sa scenario na ibinigay mo or yung mas aakmang solusyon doon sa scenario na ibinigay mo sa isang possible technologies to support the approach. Role-play is a very flexible teaching approach because it requires no specific tools, technology, or environment. However, technology can provide significant advantages and even new possibilities for using the approach as a learning activity. Because since noong face-to-face, walang nire-require na specific tools or technology or environments ang paggamit sa teaching strategies na ito. But dahil po sa pandemic na ito, even the simplest level of technology na meron po tayo. Pag meron kang voice recorder, merong video cameras, or simply your cellphone. Yung cellphone na lang po natin is meron na siyang voice recorder, meron na din video cameras. Nagkakaroon tayo or pwede po natin gamitin ng mga ito, yung traditional face-to-face role-playing natin to be recorded online and stored online for later references and analysis. Analysis and reflection. How? Pwede po natin gamitin ito, halimbawa po sa isang komunidad, na isang barangay, na magkakalapit po yung mga learners natin. Pwede nyo po silang gawin sa kanila ito, then they will be i-record po nila, then after i-record, pwede nila i-edit, i-edit nila, tapos pwede po nilang i-send doon sa GC ninyo or yung group chat na tinatawag natin. So, para doon po, pag na-download po ng mga learners natin, pwede po nila yung panoorin. Mapapanood po nila yon, babalik-balikan pa po. Pwede po sa atin. Tulad po ng ginagawa natin ngayon, we are given time to pre-record our report para, kasi we don't have, hindi po pare-parehas yung internet connection or yung place kung reachable pa yung connection po ng internet. Since we are now using this kind of platform sa pagtuturo at sa pag-aaral. So, mas possible po sa atin yung ganito. Basta meron po kayong video recorder, voice recorder, video cameras, voice recorders, and just simply yung cellphone na Androids. Pwede po natin gawin yung mga dating ginagawa natin during the face-to-face. This can allow an exercise to be revisited at a later date and re-evaluated based on the subsequent learning and experience, which isn't generally possible when the exercise has not been recorded. So, we need to record it para po sa ganun, pwede natin siyang balik-balikan. Kapag Halimbawa, magpa-deadline ka sa ganito, pero hindi mo lahat napanood, pwede nating balik-balikan para evaluate or makita yung output ng mga bata. And even as yung pinaka main goal po natin kung bakit tayo nag-pre-record ngayon kasi some of us are just using data. So, para po pag na-download na natin, pwede nating balik-balikan yung report na ganito para mas maintindihan natin at hindi na natin ng mga bata yung mga lessons po na binibigay po natin sa kanila. Other tools that can be used with this traditional style of a role play are an electronic voting system or Twitter, both of which would allow a group of students to observe the role play and evaluate the situation and conversation as it develops. Sa atin or sa mga students, mas kilala po nila yung Google Forms na tinatawag. So, kung gusto mong magpa-survey tungkol po doon sa ginawa nilang role play, we can use Google Forms as a form of survey po. This information could be retained and coupled with a recording, provide another resource for later analysis and reflection. So, mas maganda na nare-record po sa ganun para pwede natin balik at balikan and magiging resources na po natin, references for later analysis and reflection. However, technology can be used to create role-play exercises beyond what is possible in a face-to-face session. Asynchronous technologies such as an online forums and discussion boards, social networks, Twitter, and many more allow role play to take place over long periods of time in a more considered way. This means that role play can take place outside of timetable sessions and in situations where students are unable to physically meet at the same time. Yes, but it is mas okay po na recorded minsan para po mas pwede at mas accessible na balik-balikan po ng mga learners yung presentation o yung role play na ginawa ng kanilang ng ibang grupo. In this situation, students would both pause their part of the conversation, wait until the other participants have responded, and then post their own reply and so on. This method allows participants to engage when they are able, gives them time to consider responses. And while it may seem quite artificial compared to a face-to-face exercise, it can reflect situations such as email discussion quite really closely. So, another advantages of using technology is that it can enable external participants to take a part in the role play. Tools such as Google, Blackboard Collaborate, Skype, and Google Plus Hangouts all provide an online space where line conversation, including video, can take place. So all of these tools can be accessed freely over the internet and only require a microphone and speaker headphones, meaning the technical barriers are quite low. The tools typically have recording facilities that would allow the interaction to be permanently captured. These tools are also useful for role-playing among students where they are available at the same time but can physically meet, such as on distance learning courses or during placement periods. Yes, walang imposible kung gustuhin natin kasi we have free tools that can be accessed freely over the internet. But we need to consider din minsan kung kaya ba ng estudyante natin to. Kasi yun nga, financial status and yung mga hindi pare-parehas yung mga estudyante natin kung meron ba silang internet connection, kung kaya ba nila ito, kung makakapag-data ba sila, accessible, or magtatagal po ba kaya yung data nila. Kaya nga yung mode of delivering po natin ng lessons today ay mas inaalaw po sana yung video lessons recording na lang kasi pwede nating balik-balikan. So, sa mga pwede at may kaya po siguro, pwede natin i-offer itong online roleplay na tinatawag natin. Ang accessible lang po siguro at kaya ng mga estudyante natin, most especially po pag hindi private school, yung tinuturuan natin ay etong pagre-record. I-record po nila yung scenario, tapos i-compile, i-edit po nila, and then isi-send po nila through the GCs. So, if you are interested in trying out role play, there are few practical questions that should answer. wherein the course module would this approach work best? Ayun nga po, since sabi ko kanina na hindi po tayo, ang mga learners natin ay hindi pare-parehas na kaya ang teaching strategies na to, we need to consider that. Are there situations and interactions that students would benefit from being able to explore? Ano po kaya yung benefit na mabibigay po ng online roleplay kung ipapagamit po natin? Sa face-to-face, yes, there are more benefits na kaya or natututunan ng ating mga bata. Would live roleplay be most appropriate or would it need to be staggered over a long period of time? Appropriate po ba yung roleplay natin na tinatawag or yung live roleplay, recorded roleplay? Appropriate po ba kaya ito sa mga learners natin? Kaya po ba kaya ng mga learners natin? Should the students take on all the roles? Will the tutorial take a role? Or can people with their experience be involved? Having a genuine client or patient play their own part? How much technology should be involved? Ano po ba yung mga technology or yung mga gamit na involved sa pagkakaroon nito? Which tools are most suited? What support would be needed? Are the students and other tutors ready for this? We teachers, ready po ba tayo sa paggamit ng teaching strategies na to? Although, in a face-to-face role play, nagkakaroon po tayo ng mas interactive, mas masayang talakayan kapag role play ang ginamit mong teaching strategies after acting out their situation given to them. Ito po bang paggamit sa role play online o yung pagre-record natin ay ready po ba ang ating mga estudyante? So, there are tools, maraming tools na libre, pero we need to consider din po yung kung kaya po ng ating mga learners. So, there are different teaching strategies pa po na pwede nating ibigay sa kanila kung hindi suited ang role-playing na ito sa ating mga learners.
Simulation. So simulation is a technique that enables learners to obtain skills, comprehension, knowledge, or behavior by becoming involved in situations that are similar to those in real life. So this method of teaching attempts to address this problem of real life conditions and to discuss them completely after presentation is over. So now, what is the purpose of this simulation? So, simulation helps the student practice decision making and problem solving skills to develop human interaction abilities in a control safe setting. Now, what are instructional simulation? So, when students use a model of behavior to gain a better understanding of that behavior, they are doing simulation. So, here, may example tayo is when a student are assigned a role as a buyer and seller of some goods and asked to strike deals to exchange the goods, they are learning about market behavior by simulating a market. So now, in other words, instructional simulation is a scenario where the learners is placed in a world defined by a teacher. So they represent the reality within which students interact. The teacher controls the parameters of this world and uses it to achieve desired instructional results. So students experience now the reality of scenario and gather meaning from it. Ano pa? So now, why teach with simulation? So why do we need to use simulation in teaching strategy? In teaching. So instructional simulation have the potential to engage students in deep learning that empowers understanding as opposed to surface learning that requires only memorization. Deep learning means that the students learn to reflect, on the extent by number one, actively engaging in a student or teacher to student conversation needed to conduct simulation. Number two is transferring knowledge to a new problems and situations. Number three is understanding and refining their own thought processes. And number four is seeing social processes and social interaction in action. So, sabi ng Chinese proverb, tell me and I forget, show me and I remember, involve me and I understand. So, students often find them more deeply engaging than other activities as they experience the activity firsthand rather than hearing about it or seeing about it. So, in other words, simulation promotes concept attainment through experiential practice. So, for number one, active engaging, learn to reflect on extend knowledge by active engaging students or teacher to students, conversation needed to conduct simulation. Instruction and simulation, by their very nature, cannot be passive learning. So, students here are active participants. So, in selecting active participants in selecting parameter values. So, anticipating outcomes and what new questions to ask. So, for number two, transferring knowledge to a new problem and situation. A well-done simulation is constructed to include an extension to a new problem or a set of parameters that requires a student to extend that they have learned in an earlier context. And for number three is understanding and refining their own thought processes. So, simulation include a strong reflection summary that requires to think about how and why they behave as they did during the simulation. So for number four, seeing social processes and social interaction in action. So this is one of the most significant outcomes of simulation in social science discipline, such as sociology and political science. So there are common issues in simulation. So resources and time are required to develop a quality learning experience with simulation. Assessment of student learning through simulation is often more complex than with other methods. So simulated experiences are more realistic than some other techniques and they can so engaging and observing the students forget the educational purpose of exercise. So, if your simulation has an element of competition, it is important to remind the students that their goal their goal is not to win, but to acquire knowledge and understanding. So, how to achieve effective teaching? So, there are three to keep in mind na para ma-achieve natin yung effective teaching with simulation. So, ang una is, number one is prepare in advance as much as possible. So, kailangan palagi mag-prepare. Number two is monitor the process closely. And number three is to consider what to assess. So for number one, under number one is ensure that the students understand the procedure from beginning. So frustration can arise when too many uncertainties exist. So anong kailangan natin gawin? Develop the student guides and rule. Number three is try to anticipate question before they ask. So paano yun? Some simulation are fast-paced and the sense of reality is best maintained with ready responses. Ano pa? Know what you want to accomplish. So many simulation have more than instructional goal. So anong kailangan natin gawin? So we must develop criteria and ensure that the students are aware of the specific outcomes expected of them in advance. Sorry. And for number 2, monitor the processes closely to ensure that the student both understand the process and benefit from it. So, you must ask yourself that does the simulation offer an appropriate measure of realism for my group or for my students? So, ano pa? Yung objective mo ba? Na-meet mo ba? Are the desired instructional outcomes well defined? Okay. Next is for number 3, consider what to assess. So, use follow-up activities to establish a measure of comprehension and as the briefing mechanism when students return to reality. So, you might find it best to use simulation as the part of process of learning rather than as a summative measure of it. So, it is effective to use reflection in the process as the accessible component of the activity rather than participants in the simulation is it. Sorry. And for the teacher's preparation, kailangan, number 1 is planning, number 2 is facilitating, and number 3 is debriefing. So planning is choosing appropriate, number 1, so under planning is choosing appropriate simulation. Assign reading before class. Ano pa yung mga dapat natin prepare? Teacher must responsible in maintaining environment like chairs, tables, lighting, at iba pa. Next is facilitating. So after introducing the activity, teacher should talk relatively little. So ano yung role natin dito? Magiging informational resources po tayo dito. So ano pa? Take notes. Mag-take notes po tayo during class discussion. Para ano? Para after the class discussion, meron po tayong masasabi sa mga students natin na yung weakness nila, yung strengths nila. And number 3 is debriefing. So teacher's role is a final discussion or debriefing session. Immediately following the simulation, when the information is fresh in everyone's mind. So teacher should briefly summarize. So at the end of the discussion, at the end of the discussion period, ang gagawin ng teacher natin is, or tayo as a teacher, i-point out natin yung how principles and concept have been applied and how the experience ties into the learning objective. So that's for the briefing. So it has values or the values of simulation process. Number 1 is enables the learners to learn directly from experience, promote high level of critical thinking, develop in the students and understanding to the decision making process, and enables individual to emphasis with the real life situation, provides feedback to the learners on the consequences of action and decision made, and motivate the students by making real life situation exciting and interesting. Enables teachers and learners to assess the realism of situation by uncovering misconception. So self-analysis can help students gain insight into why they made certain decision or took a specific course of action. Ano pa? So, through simulation, it transforms abstract concept into interactive visual content, making it easier for the students to understand the performance and the relationship between different system parts. They can become familiar with equipment of environment, practice necessary skills without risking accidents themselves, the equipment and the environment. So wide variety of scenario are available for students to experiment in such an emergency events so that they are able to execute an appropriate procedure when these events occur in a real world situation. So that's all for today. Thank you.